Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Out of Bounds, no other than Mr. Darren Ault.
Hi, Daniel.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Darren, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure, I would be delighted. Thank you for having me. I am Darren Ault. I'm the author of Out of Bounds, but have had the pleasure of being a basketball coach for youth basketball from grammar school through college prep for 33 years in various locations and across both men's, boys, and girls basketball. Um, I'm married to my beautiful wife, Ann, and I have three adult children.
Mr. Darren Ault, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, can you tell us what the title Out of Bounds means in the context of the story?
Sure. So, as a coach, there was a lot of opportunity and a great privilege to develop relationships with players, and it's a pretty special bond between the coach and player. Over the 33 years that I had spent coaching at various levels, I started to notice a trend where parents were getting more and more involved in that player coach relationship. And unfortunately, a lot of times that was a negative experience as opposed to um, working together. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child, right? But working together to help raise that child or that player in a good way. So I noticed the experiences were getting more negative, more visceral, a lot of hatred towards players, towards referees, towards coaches, and it's something that I wanted to share through my stories with the world to try and help calm that down, to try and help open up dialogue between people.
Very well said, Mr. Darren. Very well said. Is Out of Bounds based on personal experiences or purely fictional?
No, it's all personal experiences through that time frame that I coached at all different levels. Um, Wanting again to share these different stories so that we could learn from them, and it's shared through the lens of my basketball coaching experience, but it transcends me. It transcends the game of basketball. I think into transcends youth sports in general to life, to work world, to any experiences you may have out there about how we engage people, how we treat people, how we work together.
So, Mr. Darren, let's talk about the plot and character development. Were there any scenes or moments in the book that were particularly emotional or difficult for you to write?
Yeah, there were quite a few, Daniel. The prem or what the final straw was that propelled me to actually finally write the book. Unfortunately, in my last year coaching at Homedale High School in New Jersey, I was suspended and accused of inappropriate touching, which was absolutely false and was baseless. And it was unfortunately a freshman player who was upset that they were not on varsity and decided to use two other players who were on varsity as weapons and ways to get at me. So writing through that experience and sharing that was very emotional. It was cathartic in a way, but it was definitely emotional as I remembered stories around the negative accusations, the lack of leadership from the school administration in supporting coach, or even doing a thorough investigation. And at the same time, it was that experience was reassuring because I had 19 players on the team, and out of the 19, 18 of the families, all but one, supported me, got up and spoke verbally, publicly at a board of education meeting, and wanted me back on the sidelines with my coaching staff right away. Unfortunately, the very vocal minority won that one out, and I think a lot of it had to do with the board of education being afraid of their own shadow, being afraid to be decisive and make a decision that might cause them to explain their position. So yeah, it was very emotional. Some of them good emotions too. I think about one of my favorite stories in there is an interaction with a young lady who wasn't even on our team, who had just scored 1,000 points in her high school career, which is a great accomplishment. And when she came to play in our gym, we took a moment to recognize her and honor her, even though she was an opponent for the night. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful stories. A lot of emotion behind the book for sure.
So, Mr. Darren, what do you hope readers learn or feel from the challenges your character face?
Uh, the biggest hope is that people pause for a moment before making accusations, before thinking of self in something like team sports, which is all about something greater than self. How do we work together toward a common goal? And think about the potential impact of their actions, of their words, of insinuations, and what it can do to people. Because a lot of times it's not just directed at coaches; they'll direct it at players. So young people who have to watch and listen parents act in a very negative way. Um, and then to the message to coaches to kind of warning signs in a way, a message to parents, and maybe thinking twice about how they act, and then to administration. You know, you're hired to support both staff and student, so find that balance.
Find that balance, people. So let's talk about the genre and style. Mr. Darren, how would you describe the genre of tone of Out of Bounds?
It's a nonfiction sports book written through again my stories to share out message, broader message to a broader audience. It is told through the lens of basketball and me as a basketball coach, but again, I think it transcends all of that. I don't work in school or in education now. I no longer coach in sports, but I am a leader in the corporate world, and I took a lot of the lessons from coaching youth to how I coach my team today. You know, in the corporate world, so my sales team and how they work and how we interact and how we recognize each other is all being an important part of a larger puzzle.
Totally agree, Mister. So, what kind of research did you do while you writing this book, if any?
Well, even though they're all my stories, there still was a level of research.
Yes.
One of the things I did was look to other authors for inspiration or methodology around writing a book. Um, look to other authors for inspiration around leadership and things that resonated with me. I wanted to be able to resonate out to a broader audience. Authors like John Gordon, who wrote the Power of Positive Influence, Jocko Willink, who wrote Extreme Ownership, both of which are very valuable leadership attributes. Um, Researching some of the game action that had happened or that I write about because it had been over 33 years. So, you know, my memory may have been a little foggy at times. So just being able to kind of recap on a box score and refresh my memory and be able to share as accurately as possible as the stories that I wanted to share.
Very well said, Mr. Darren. Very well said. So, were there any specific authors or books that influence your writing style for this tone?
Yeah, actually, Bill O'Reilly does the Killing series, you know, which is a historical series through various events that shaped our world, from the rise and fall of the British Empire, the influence of the Nazis in Germany, to the effect that President Reagan had in the United States. And one of the things that he does in his writing very consistently is actually the name of my first chapter, which is "Start with the End in Mind." And so he'll start a historical perspective by saying, if it was President Lincoln, for example, the man who has 30 days to live. So you already know what's going to happen, but then he goes backwards and shapes up that history. So I use the same method or similar method in my book, where the first chapter is dedicated to the last game that I coached and ended with my being suspended by the Homedale Board of Education. And then I went backwards and went through my history and started to identify some of these stories and how they shape up the rest of the book.
So, Mr. Darren, let's talk about behind the scenes of your writing. What is your writing process like for Out of Bounds?
It was a long process, actually. It took altogether about 10 years. There was a point where I started to really recognize the pattern, this disruptive behavior of um, parents crossing that line in the player coach relationship. And I took a moment just to start to outline a little bit of where they occurred and what was the theme of that interference and what may have caused it. And then eventually I had a pretty good outline of things I thought I could share stories about, but I didn't have the catalyst. I didn't have the big event in my book. And not that I was looking for it, certainly not. But that last year at Homedale High School, when I got suspended and actually lost a great team that we had shaped over 4 years and lost the rest of the basketball season and did not get to celebrate that with them, people who I had grown with and who had grown in the program for 4 years. Um, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was my catalyst to finish the book.
So, Mr. Darren, what will be your advice for those people out there who want to write their own book?
If you have a story and if you even an inkling of a story, I would say go for it. Um, I didn't fancy myself a novelist or an author until I started writing, and eventually with the right motivation and the right inspiration, I was able to come up with Out of Bounds. I was able to work through all the emotions that we talked about before, Daniel, good and bad, you know, happy and hurtful, to be able to position and finally tell or share a story that, again, I hope resonates not just with people involved with youth sports, but anybody who's involved or has interactions with other people, which hopefully should be all of us, right? And the way we
Yes,
treat people and the way we look to be treated ourselves.
definitely. And thank you for your advice, Mr. Darren. And what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
Well, I think the short term goal is accomplished. I wanted to get this book written and out, and it is. It's available through multiple the standard resources, Amazon and Barnes and Noble, etc. Um, I wanted to have hopefully a broad impact, reach a broad audience, and ideally it would be a catalyst to ending this parental negative interference or the dark side of youth sports would be brought into the limelight and hopefully resolved. Ultimately, it, I don't know that that would ever happen, but at least maybe this is here to provide some guardrails to players, to coaches, to parents, to administrations on shedding light on what is a horrible problem, one that does need to be resolved, and maybe prevent those issues from happening.
So, Mr. Darren, is there a scene or quote in the book that's especially meaningful to you?
Yeah, there is. There was a quote I used from John Gordon's book, The Power of Positive Leadership, when I was accused of that, inappropriate touching, which again was a completely made up, fabricated story. I started to think about, as a coach, oftentimes we'll give a high five or a pat on the back or a pat on the head to a player in encouragement, in a way to motivate them or comfort them when they missed a shot or something like that. And John Gordon speaks to positive leaders and communicators relying on nonverbal communication. They encourage through nods, facial expressions, high fives, handshakes, pats on the back, fist bumps, and even hugs when appropriate. Positive communication isn't just verbal, it's also physical. We must remember that it is a way we humans communicate naturally and is very powerful and beneficial when done appropriately and with good intention. And I think that is a truly a wonderful aspect of a coach when you just get that fist bump or that high five, and there is that personal engagement.
Truly high five, Mr. Darren. Truly high five. So, what challenges did you face in getting the book published or out to readers?
Um, First challenge was I knew nothing about publishing, so I started to poke around and read about the different styles of publishing, the differences in publishing prior to COVID, when it was mostly the big five publishers out there, to post COVID, when a lot of people had a lot of experiences that they wanted to share, and the part that hybrid publishers played in a quicker turn in getting books out to market. And right now, I'm in the throes of it. I'm learning an awful lot about marketing, trying to position my book, social media, which I was never a big participant in, but now I'm on Instagram, now I'm on X, LinkedIn, and even my son and I do a podcast called Outside the Coach's Box, which is available on Spotify. But we often talk about these kind of issues in sport as well.
Awesome. Keep up the good work, Mr. Darren. And we are hoping for more and more empowering books to come. So let's talk about the final reflections of the book. What's the main message you hope readers take away from Out of Bounds?
Well, I think the best way to convey that, Daniel, is to share with you one of the reviews I received on Amazon.
Go
And
ahead.
it's long, but I'll share the last piece of it where it says, excuse me, the book doesn't just illuminate the problems. It challenges readers to reflect on their own roles in shaping the environments where children grow and thrive. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of fairness, empathy, and accountability in all interactions with young people. Out of Bounds is a gripping and emotionally charged read, and its lessons extend far beyond the world of sports. If you work with children in any capacity, this book is not just recommended, it's essential. And that was
It's
an unsolicited review. Is wonderful.
it's essential to read, people. So, Mr. Darren, can you read one of your favorite first paragraph of the chapter of your book? Please.
How about I read the last paragraph of the first chapter?
Go ahead.
Would that work?
Yes, definitely.
So, our focus now needed to move to our two upcoming games. The next against Raritan, a lesser division opponent, but one we couldn't afford to take lightly. That game needed to be a demonstration of our continued growth. More importantly, we played Ewing on Saturday, another top 20 team in the state. I told the girls we would continue to build together, and when we beat Ewing on Saturday, we will break into the top 20 in the state of New Jersey. The girls erupted with cheer. We gathered in the center of the locker room when I encouraged them again to stay connected to the vine. As was our custom, we huddled up, joined hands, and ended with together. Those proved to be my last words to the girl and the last words I would ever utter as a coach. The next day, Homedale High School suspended me indefinitely.
So, before we wrap up our discussion, Mr. Darren, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Music 101, in its third season, people, third season with Mr. Jim Smith. Music 101 is created to empower music itself and legendary icon in the music industry. So, please do listen. Music 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Darren, are there any plans for a follow up for this book in the future?
I don't think there's a follow up to this exact book, but I have been flirting with the idea based on a saying I used to tell my kids all the time, the players and even my kids. And it was rule number one: coach is always right. And now through life's experiences and curveballs, I'm thinking about reflecting back on that. And is that valid, or is it okay to be wrong and to learn from those lessons?
Certainly, coaches. are always right. Our coach is always right. Mr. Darren Ault, thank you so much for sharing Out of Bounds to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Yes, please. I would hope that you all have the opportunity to buy and read the book and share it with your friends and family. And feel free to rate it, review it, and let me know how you think about it.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Darren Ault because if you support him, more and more and more coaching to come and more books to come. So, Mr. Darren, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Have a great evening.
More to come, people. See you soon. So, Mr.